Serial Experiments Lain has gotta be one of the strangest anime that I've ever watched. Not something that I have a history with. I came into it knowing absolutely nothing, and I watched it fairly recently, and by that I mean earlier this week. And of course, I was immediately drawn into the aesthetic and the style of the anime, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and to be honest, I still don't really know what to make of it. I guess I can say that I enjoyed it, but the entire experience felt almost more like a dream than watching an anime, but I think that's also the intent. Lain is a 13-episode anime series originally released in 1998, and what's unique about that is that the subject matter that it tackles has to do with things that are even more prevalent today than they were at the time. And that, put simply, is the internet and the things that it could mean for society and us as a species. What this advent could create and how lost we could become in this new ever-expanding world, creating alternate personas of ourselves, being able to access everything that we need in an instant, and in a twisted way, even evolving beyond the need for a flesh and blood body. The wildest thing is how relevant the series still feels. I mean, besides every character having a big box monitor and CD-ROMs and things like that, other technology that was popular and emerging at the time, but the core ideas and messages of the series seems to resonate and even more relevant now than it even was back then, which is also maybe why I've seen so many people recommend this series to me in recent times. It's almost prolific and is a gigantic warning sign that at the time was seen as science fiction, but now is becoming ever closer to our actual reality. Between the metaverse, AI, online personas, all of it seems to be building towards its own new world. I'm not really sure how to summarize the plot, but essentially our main character Lain is a middle school girl who in episode 1 is pretty detached from computers and technology and all of that as a whole. But the gossip in class talks about a fellow student who committed suicide that we see in the opening of the very first episode, and yet afterwards she was able to send an email to everybody after she died. It's a rumor that could be a prank or maybe something else, but it's intriguing enough for Lain to buy the equipment that she needs and set up her own computer system to try to figure it out. Within the world of this series, there is something called The Wired, which is basically the internet, but it's a collection of everything. A digital space where you can find anything, go anywhere, and be anybody that you want to be. It plays on the idea of internet personas and how we create an avatar of the person we see ourselves as, even if it's not who we really are. But what if, in truth, that is our real self? Because it's a place in cyberspace where we are able to be who we actually want to be, and it's our physical bodies that are the illusion. Without the limitations of that, how far could we expand ourselves, and how much can we uncover about who we are, even if that turns out to be something dark and unrecognizable? You see it in the most basic aspects of the fact that online you are pretty much anonymous, and so people would say and do things that they never actually would in real life. But what does that mean? Does that mean that that's who they actually are deep down, and it's only the limitations of the real world that stop them from being that true self version? And if that is true, how dark is humanity really without any rules or restriction? The series also explores the ideas of collective unconscious, treating the wired like another world entirely, one that some people prefer over real life, and completely submit themselves to, almost forgetting about their actual human existence. And then it takes it a step further, asking questions like, okay, if we accept the digital world as a plane of existence, then does the digital world have a god? And would a god of that world be any less of a god than the one of the physical world? If God is someone who creates the world, creates the rules and physics of the world, created the ability to live, manifest, and thrive, then what really is the difference if it was done with the physical earth or within a digital plane? The definition of a god is the creator of the universe with some divine moral authority over it. So if you created the digital world and you have divine moral authority, well, aren't you a god? And also remember, this was in 1998. Most people either didn't even own a computer yet or were getting their first ones ever, and it was a huge deal when you did. It wasn't like now where everybody just has one. If you had the computer, you were the cool kid in town. My family didn't have one until 2002. I was like 12 or 13 years old. So this was right when the ideas were first emerging and people didn't really know how far it was going to go. Also remember, The Matrix came out in 1999 and was about human beings being trapped in a digital world without even knowing it so that the machines could harvest their body's energy. The concept being that you are so deep within this digital landscape that you can't even tell that it's not real. So what if you started believing in the stuff that you said online? What if it created an entire other you? And that's kind of what happens here. But it's the general question of which you is the real you? Which world has more relevancy? The series is like the paranoia identity crisis of a movie like Perfect Blue, and then mix it in with the existential dread of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and then just add a dash of The Matrix to top it all off, and that's basically Serial Experiments Lain. But following the plot line, even if you can get the ideas behind it, can be very difficult. The dialogue is strange, the characters all seem like they're hiding something from the audience, and the animation and imagery is done in a way that I can only describe, like I said, a dream. It's of course blurring the line between real and fake, but there are some episodes that, when they ended, I was sitting there thinking, what did I just watch? And not in like a that was so fucked up kind of way, but more so like I just sat through 22 minutes of something, but it feels like I'm waking up from a dream and I'm already forgetting most of it. And not that it was boring either. I don't know if I'm explaining myself right here, but maybe if you've seen it, you'll get what I mean. It's like every episode around episode 5 or 6 and after just felt like a blur. Like I got the basic idea of what I was seeing, but I almost instantly forgot any conversations the characters had or what they were actually doing. But I think that's the intent. I think the episodes themselves kind of take you to another world and you're questioning whether it's real or whether it's not real, or if the images you're seeing are actually happening, or if they're in the main character's head, or if they're online in the wired, and it just becomes this kind of blur mesh, not in an annoying way, but kind of just a weird, strange, dreamlike quality that after the episode is over, you don't even know what you actually watched. But it's important to note that I also don't think the show is meant to be anti-technology or anti-internet or just fear-mongering about the dangers of it. I think it's more so just a look at the reality of the situation. There isn't really a moral judgment. It's just sort of like, if this is the direction the world is going, well, this is what it's going to be. That with this booming new era, there is a whole lot that we fully don't understand about how it's going to affect us in the long term. That if our online persona is supposed to be an extension of ourselves, then what does that say about who we really are? If it's going to be interchangeable or one and the same, why are we so different in each world? And if it's supposed to be so useful to us, why do we fear it so much? And I think it's like with all the pleasures of life. There's a way to utilize it to benefit us, but if we become lost in it, we also lose who we are. And that's mostly in isolation. And that brings me to the next point that I think, and I emphasize, I think, I don't know, that the series is trying to cover. And of course, that's human connection. The internet is this strange thing that it can allow us to access and connect and communicate with so many people and find others with similar feelings and ideals that we would never find in real life otherwise. But it can also be very isolating because without our actual flesh and blood human bodies, there's always going to be a lack of true, full connection. To be able to see someone, make eye contact, feel them, laugh with them, hug them, it's something that we can only do by living in what we understand to be the real world. And sure, this could all be an illusion too. Our brains are just responding to electric impulses, so who knows what's really real? But in this world, we can feel, and we do long for that. And it's the thing that no matter how real something else seems, it's an irreplaceable thing, and it's worth preserving no matter how much humanity or the world evolves. Ultimately, this series is focused on covering really deep existential topics in an artistic and abstract way. It makes you feel strange and uncomfortable, unsure of how much of what you're watching is important or even actually happening. Lain works kind of like a vessel for you to perceive what she's perceiving and wonder if she's awake online or maybe if she even exists at all. It's a hard show to recommend because following the narrative can be a bit difficult, and it's mostly going to make you want to sit in a field and reflect on your life afterwards and, wonder if you're actually a person or if the person you are is actually the person that you want to be or that you project yourself as, and what is your core identity and what does it all mean? Yeah, you'll be thinking about it for a while. But it also has some fantastic imagery and is the kind of anime that I really miss being created. Part of me wishes that I would have seen this years ago, but another part of me kind of likes that I've seen this after being decades deep in the online world now. It kind of holds a different impact. A lot of it not being far off from what's become of the world. And I don't think that it comes from a pessimistic or optimistic lens, more so just here's what it is, and here's what it could mean for us. No bullshit and no pulling punches, it just is real, and I appreciate it for that. Anyways, guys, if you have watched Serial Experiments Lain, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys got out of it. Like I said, I only just watched it for the first time, so I'm not an expert here. I'm just going by kind of what I feel after watching the series. But let me know what you guys think down below. Really appreciate it. Also, give the video a like and a comment to help it out in the algorithm. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have all the Patreon channel memberships and social media stuff in the description. You know, it's all there, whatever. Anyways, guys, other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.